we comment on the unconcealed attempt of the United States to occupy Afghanistan forever. These days, high-ranking officers of the U.S. military often talk about the withdrawal of the U.S. forces from Afghanistan. Some time ago, U.S. Secretary of Defense Gates visited Afghanistan and said the withdrawal of the U.S. forces from the country can be started in coming July. Keeping step with it, a diplomat in authority and other high-ranking politicians of the United States described the withdrawal of the U.S. forces from Afghanistan as a fait accompli and voiced that they should increase the ability of the Afghan government by civil and diplomatic means and prepare the local people to live by themselves. They mean that many of the U.S. forces have nothing special to do in Afghanistan as their military and anti-terror purposes have been achieved. It sounds that the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan was aimed at anti-terrorism, but it is nothing but a camouflage to cover up their ulterior intention. As was widely exposed after the September 11th incident in 2001, the United States declared a war on terror under the pretext of retaliation and with huge armed forces invaded Afghanistan and toppled down the Taliban government overnight. Though it achieved its first purpose, the United States did not stop the Afghan war. On the contrary, it expanded the sphere of the war on terror to neighboring countries and strengthened military relations with the countries in the region. Because they had a purpose. Referring to the Afghan war, NHK of Japan exposed that the war of the United States in the region is a war on terror in name, but it is in essence a war to secure petroleum. The Egyptian newspaper Al-Ahbar and other media of the world disclosed that the real intention of the United States, which started the Afghan war under the signboard of anti-terrorism, is to seize petroleum of the Caspian Sea. Today, the United States thinks that it has achieved in the main its strategic aim through the Afghan war. It is a complete deception that the United States pretends to take hands off Afghanistan through the withdrawal of the U.S. forces from that country. Sometime after the publication of the Afghan strategy by the U.S. Chief Executive in 2009, the U.S. Secretary of Defense Gates told the committee of the U.S. Senate that the number of the U.S. forces in Afghanistan and the date of their withdrawal might be changed. Already at that time, the United States suggested its perpetual stay in Afghanistan. It is practically proved by the recent talks between the United States and Afghanistan to establish U.S. military base. Then, why does the United States talk about the withdrawal of its forces from Afghanistan while seeking for perpetual occupation of that country? Today, the U.S. occupation forces are put under disadvantage in Afghanistan. The U.S. forces conducted intensive military operations in Afghanistan, even with forces pulled from Iraq. But they are attacked by the strengthened Taliban forces in all directions. Besides, people in the United States denounced the Afghan war as a pitiful war and shameful war. The countries which dispatched their forces to Afghanistan are also turning their back to the Afghan war. Worse still, in Afghanistan, many Afghans are killed frequently by the reckless military attack of the U.S. occupation forces aimed at civilians. Afghanistan has been reduced to a theater of rowdyism, where the vicious circle of social confusion and disorder, terrorism and retaliation lasts. Such a reality shows that it is difficult for the United States to pacify Afghanistan through arms build-up as before. So the United States intends to pull back some of its forces from Afghanistan and thus afford an understanding that it is not an aggressor or occupationer so as to soothe down the anti-U.S. tendency in that country. The public maintains that the dark colors of the United States to occupy Afghanistan forever can never be concealed.